figured we could actually start out with that since might not be on screen yet, but we'll go ahead and let you know. Plup is running a Cramorant, a Sableye, Rhyperior, Arcanine, Gastrodon, and Rotom Mow, if you didn't get a chance to see that earlier on in the stream. And on Hugs' side, we've got Sylveon, Mandibuzz, Ferrothorn, Dragapult, Arcanine, and Rotom Bosch. So that's going to be a great matchup. As Aaron was kind of mentioning before, Rotoms might be a really big staple in this particular match. And yeah, I'm looking forward to these shenanigans.
Yeah, so a couple things to note here. Spamming water type attacks is a little bit difficult for Plup. He has he's going up against a lot of Pokemon that resist water type attacks, like that Rotom, like that Dragapult, and like that Ferrothorn. So it's like even if you Rain Dance and spam Surf, like against some teams it might just be able to sweep through, but against Hugs's, I think it is considerably more difficult to get things off. I think Rotom Wash is a huge bring here for Hugs, as is the Dragapult. And the key thing for Hugs is basically to not get eject buttoned immediately. And for Plup's end, he might want to consider, saving that strategy, maybe not using it like on turn 1, for example. Like maybe Hugs doesn't even lead the Pokemon he wants to Dynamax with. I think like Plup's definitely going to want that Rotom on his end to counter the opposing Rotom. His Dragapult matchup is looking a little shaky though, honestly. I think I think a well-played Dragapult from Hugs then can really kind of just sweep through the entire team. So I think Plup's going to have to, keep that in mind, and maybe that's where the Sableye, trick shenanigans can come in handy. But with little resist to it, it is going to be difficult to take care of.
Definitely going to have some tricky plays to have to make here. So I expect a lot of pivots, I think, in this game in order to really set your Pokemon up for success. But it's about to get into turn 0 here between Plup and Hugs, and we're going to see those leads coming out there for you on your very first side of the field. You're going to see Hugs with Rotom and Arcanine. Rotom already leading very early on here, and there's the Bird and Sableye coming out from Plup. So we have some idea about how this one might start off.
Yeah, this is really kind of a interesting position because like the Rotom obviously threatens the Cramorant with the Thunderbolt, but we know Arcanine's Will-O-Wisp, and Sableye could very easily switch into Rhyperior, for example, to take the Thunderbolt, but the main thing here is that the Cramorant doesn't really do any damage against the Bird, even in Dynamax form, so maybe Plup's strategy is just to target around it, but wondering what he has in the back to potentially deal with it. Either way here, you have the potential to switch into the Rhyperior. Now the downside for Plup there is if you go for that, Hugs can either Will-O-Wisp that slot with Arcanine, maybe even Hydro Pump that slot with the Rotom. So I think Hugs going for a super defensive lead here, and that's a really strong option because you don't have to worry about the potential trick shenanigans from turn 1.
Absolutely. Now the Rhyperior is going to be switched in, though, from Plup, and there's that turn 1 Dynamax that we expected to see. They're coming out from Cramorant. You talked about the proper Dynamax, or like the best Dynamax targets there from Plup's team, and you're seeing them both on the field right now, so Cramorant is going to be able to get that Dynamax energy. But now, what is the response from Hugs? Did they get the read that Rhyperior was going to be switching in? Arcanine going to go for a Protect just in case Cramorant was going to target down that slot with something like the Max move, but it's going to be a Max Airstream, and the Protect actually ends up saving quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, the Airstream play there is pretty nice, though. I'm once again, I don't know how fast this Rhyperior is, and there's the Thunderbolt, so yeah, it doesn't end up eating a Will-O-Wisp or a Hydro Pump turn 1, as the Lightning Rod will redirect it away here. So I have to once again ask, how fast is the Rhyperior? The thing is, the one play you could potentially make is actually go for another Max Airstream and Speed Boost actually apply instantly, so Rhyperior plus 2 speed might be faster. Alternatively, you can just go for a Protect with the Rhyperior and just play a little bit more defensively, since the Cramorant is actually perfectly protected right now. Rotom can't touch it, maybe go for like a Will-O-Wisp onto it, but there's really no point in there. And then Arcanine, at best, its play is probably to Snarl here, so by being able to switch in Rhyperior turn 1 for free, it's always a little bit risky, but Hugs playing a little bit more passively, Plup is basically able to fully capitalize off it. And the big question here still is how can you do consistent damage against the Rotom? It might be through Rock Slide after making it faster with the Airstream boosts.
Yeah, I agree with that one. Rhyperior is going to keep it a little bit safe here, but Cramorant not actually going for a Max Airstream, but going for the Max Geyser into the Sylveon slot, and Sylveon taking about a third of its health right there from just one move, and now setting the weather into rain. Rotom going for the light screen, though. What a spicy tech on that Pokemon.
Yeah, light screen, really, it's not that rare of a move in this format nowadays. Grimstar often carries it, but Rotom, typically likes like Hydro Pump, Thunderbolt, Will Protect, maybe Volt Switch. So opting to slot that on, but that's actually going to help out immensely here against the Cramorants. And by setting up the rain, I mean, right here, Rotom's just going to be able to do even more damage with Hydro Pump, and Sylveon and Rotom have really good coverage, right? Like Hydro Pump and Hyper Voice will, I think, pretty much hit everything for neutral, super effective damage. So the big question here is, how does Plup deal with the Rotom? Even in Undynamax form, it is putting on a lot of pressure.
Well, maybe Max Geyser might be a bit of an answer for at least the Sylveon. Gonna take away another third of its health here. And Rhyperior going for the Rock Slide. Maybe just hoping to get a couple of flinches. Is gonna be a little bit faster. Does get the knockout out of the Sylveon as well and takes a decent chunk of the Rotom's health, but...
Oh, is there a flinch?
Is the flinch there? Flinch not there!
Oh.
Oh, and the Hydro Pump. There it is. Gonna go into the Rhyperior, and that is a clean one-hit knockout.
Yeah, I can respect that play from Plup, though. Honestly, I think like his team does look kind of Rotom weak. Yeah, especially with Sableye and Arcanine in the back. It's actually kind of gets demolished by Rotom. As soon as Rhyperior is out of the way, Rotom kind of just one-shots everything, especially with Rain up. But yeah, it pretty much comes down, if you can get the flinch there, then another attack from the Cramorant plus a Rock Slide might actually be able to knock out the Rotom. And your chance of flinching and your opponent missing Hydro Pump, like those two added up, you just need one of the two to happen. It's not actually super bad, but now with Dynamax ending here, I think Rotom actually can just pretty comfortably take this game, and Hugs has actually yet to Dynamax yet, so he ended up bringing Dragapult, but Rotom perhaps was enough to do things by itself, especially because Plup ended up not bringing that Gastrodon.
Yeah, the Gastrodon might have been pretty pivotal if we had seen that come out there from Plup, but Hugs now in a very good position. Even though they did lose their Sylveon, they still have the Ferrothorn, and that dishes out quite a bit of pressure, because like, how much can Cramorant really do, especially now that the Dynamax is going to be over. And now it's time for Hugs to Dynamax. What is going to be the Dynamax here? It's probably going to be that Rotom, and I'm excited to see. Yep. Oh no, it's the Ferrothorn. The Ferrothorn's going to be the Dynamax energy.
I actually really like that with this team. It's an Assault Vest set, so you give yourself boosts, like Steel Spike boosts, and suddenly it's just like impossible to knock out, basically. And well, there's this trick, but is it going off into the Rotom or the Ferrothorn?
Oh, it's going to be actually the Rotom that ends up getting the trick there, and the Scald as well onto the Rotom. I would think we were expecting a Rotom Dynamax here, but the eject button is going to get that Rotom right out.
Yeah, so that's the hard part about playing with eject button and trick. If you call it incorrectly, you effectively waste an attack there with Sableye, and your opponent will just have Dynamax for the rest of the game. I think Hugs just has a really good defensive core, and he's using it perfectly too. But the Pokemon like Cramorant really doesn't like going up against something like Light Screen, and this Ferrothorn I think really will just be able to sweep through at this point. Overgrowth there actually just gets the knockout by itself too. Jeez.
Wow, yeah, they didn't really need to do too much there. I mean, oh man, the bird might be the word, but not in this particular game of the series here. And Hugs does look to be in a very good position against Plup at the moment. Now left with just the Sableye as well as their own Arcanine. And Arcanine's actually not a Pokemon that we got a chance to see too much of in that first game, so we don't really know how this one is trained either, but you can see the Intimidate going off, so not going to be the Justified Beat-Up variant, but we'll have to wait and see whether or not it's going to be able to be an offensive sweeper here.
Yeah, the thing is, like, normally you want Fire-type Pokemon up against Ferrothorn, but this is an Arcanine in Rain against an Assault Vest Ferrothorn. Dynamax as well. Like, Flamethrower probably does, like, 20-25% at most, honestly. You maybe need a fish for a burn, and, Hugs obviously still has a couple turns of Dynamax and a Pokemon in the back, so I think great decision to Dynamax the Ferrothorn. Honestly, he could Dynamax so many Pokemon in this matchup. Ferrothorn is good. The Dragapult, I think, is certainly a mix-up he could make if he wants to switch things up going into this next game. But the main thing here is that there's just not very much damage output. Arcanine from Plup's end won't do anything against the opposing end. And you can maybe go for foul play onto the opposing Arcanine, but it's going to take a couple of hits. And now that there is the grassy terrain as well, that kind of negates the Intimidate, and you're able to do even more damage with max Overgrowth.
Yeah, well, Arcanine's going to show off the Snarl, so giving a bit of information to Hugs about how this Arcanine is going to be trained is going to be a bit more of the, I think, the supportive variant here, but now the opposing Arcanine from Hugs' side of the field is going to use the Flare Blitz and does barely anything. The Rain being so potent here against both of these Arcanines. Sableye now using Foul Play, gonna get a decent chunk of damage into the Arcanine, but it's time for a Max Darkness now from that Ferrothorn, and that's gonna be another chunk of damage. It's gonna be a slow game to finish up.
Yeah, kind of just chipping away at it. Like you said, slowly. I think you really go either way in this game. I mean, if you aggressively target down the Sableye, then you'll eventually have like a 2v1 or a 3v1, but by lowering the special defense too, that kind of paves the way for Rotom in the back. And I mean, I think Plup wants a shot at winning this, you basically need to stall out the Rain and the Dynamax, and then maybe crit a Flamethrower. You could go for a Will-O-Wisp to burn the Ferrothorn. That would greatly decrease its damage output, but you know, Rotom is still waiting in the back to come out and really finish things off. But I think for Hugs' end, it might have been better to kind of pressure down the Sableye a little bit more, just so that you basically force like a 2v1 position. And Sableye now can actually still do some consistent damage with Foul Play. It's actually the best means of offense right now against both of these Pokemon, so yeah, that is the downside of, you know, Dynamaxing a Pokemon like Ferrothorn. It's not very offensive, especially if you're intimidating it or burning it. It basically does no damage, and then the Dynamax effectively is wasted.
Yeah, would have been better maybe to see the Dynamax onto the Rotom, but you saw the eject button trick that ended up happening a couple turns ago, so definitely a good way to kind of get around that one. But another Snarl coming out from Plup's Arcanine. We will get the special attack drops, but now it's time for Hugs' Arcanine to fire back with that Flare Blitz once again, just chipping away, barely doing any damage there once again, and actually maybe taking a bit more damage there from the recoil. And now a bit of a different move here coming out from Hugs' Ferrothorn. Not doing very much here. Like you said, it is going to be quite difficult for there to be any sort of damage coming off from that Ferrothorn in this environment.
Yeah, both players are really not doing very much damage across the board, and once again, by not targeting the Sableye aggressively, I mean, now Sableye can actually get some good damage off against, you know, these things with Foul Play. Light Screen will finally wear off, so now there is no more Light Screen, no more Rain, and no more Dynamax. So Flamethrower from Arcanine now will finally actually do, you know, actually decent damage, I think. So kind of have to weather the storm, but Plup could potentially win this still. I mean, he's got the Snarl, which can obviously hamper down the Rotom in the back, especially if Rotom misses a couple Will-O-Wisps. I mean, I feel like Hugs probably should have targeted down the Sableye, but alright, well, let's see how this plays out.
Well, it's going to be a Protect coming out from Plup's Arcanine. Wants to just go for a bit of a safer play here. And the Will-O-Wisp actually targeting down the Sableye this time. Wants to try to diminish as much potential from that Foul Play as possible. But the Foul Play now is going to connect with the Arcanine. And actually it ends up doing quite a bit there. Knockoff getting released as well from that Ferrothorn. Doesn't do very much because of the Protect, but also won't be able to show what item is on that Arcanine.
Yeah, one kind of cool play you can make here is potentially trading the, you can get rid of the Assault Vest from the Ferrothorn by going for a trick onto it and then just Flamethrower it to potentially one-shot it. I mean, the Sableye is actually doing good damage with Foul Play, and that's kind of what happens when you just let it stick around on the field, right? It doesn't really care about decreases to its attack because its damage up is based off the opposing attack. So here's Flamethrower. I don't think that will knock out the Ferrothorn without a trick, and yeah, hangs on with a bit of a
is going to hang on with quite a bit there. Now Snarl, though, from Hugs' Arcanine, changing it up a little bit there, so will not be using the Flare Blitz. And the Foul Play as well, just consistently chipping away at Hugs' Arcanine. Knockoff finally gets a chance to connect with the Arcanine on Plup's side of the field, gets the crit, and actually knocks off the Citrus Berry. So Arcanine doesn't have as much staying power on Plup's side of the field anymore.
Oh my goodness, this has definitely been a kind of long drawn-out finish to the game. I mean, Rotom is still in the back, and of course that is pretty much the MVP against the majority of Plup's Pokemon, but Sableye is still sitting relatively healthy. That being said, I mean, finally getting rid of the Berry on Arcanine means, like, yeah, you know, attack will just be able to, you know, knock it out. The thing is, you still have to maybe hit, like, a Hydro Pump, like, especially because Arcanine's probably faster than a Rotom. A Snarl will probably make it so that a Thunderbolt won't knock out. Yeah, I mean, Rotom is still just sitting in the back, kind of waiting and healthy, so maybe Hugs was just content just distributing damage across the board and slowly getting the free switch into Rotom, but all this foul play damage is also adding up.
Yeah, it is adding up here. Arcanine going for another Snarl, and because there's no more Pokemon in Plup's back part of the Pokeballs, you just have to kind of consistently deal with these special attack drops. And now the foul play is going to actually put this Arcanine in range of using its Figgy Berry, so it is going to be able to get its health restored, and all of that foul play damage now feels like it was wasted almost.
Yeah, so, I mean, this has been a long, drawn-out endgame, but I think Hugs just really not wanting to risk the Rotom switching at any point. Now, I mean, something like Snarl and Foul Play won't knock out the Rotom here, but maybe, like, 2 Foul Plays and a Snarl will be able to finish it off. Plup here has a decision to make, like, perhaps he protects the Arcanine if he's worried about the Rotom targeting that slot, or he could just go for the offense, and that's exactly what he's going for, so let's see how much Foul Play does.
Yeah, foul play is going to be really important here to knock out the Rotom, because it is, you kind of want this to be kind of an Arcanine versus Arcanine Sableye battle if you are Plup. Snarls, though, from both Arcanines here is going to get the drops, as well as the chip damage.
Oh!
And Rotom actually connects with the Hydro Pump onto Plup's Arcanine. Is it going to be enough to get the knockout, though? And of course, in that range, yes, it is super effective. Doesn't matter. It is going to get the knockout. And now the foul play, though, not even close to being able to knock that out.
Yeah, I think that just speaks to how good Rotom is against a lot of Plup's team, but I think Plup, honestly, given what he brought to this game, did as much as he could have. Could have made some, maybe more plays with Trick, but as Rotom actually dodges the Will-O-Wisp. But, yeah, the team matchup is kind of shaky for him, I think, as Flare Blitz, comes out and finally gets the knockout there. So kind of a long, drawn-out game, but sometimes that's what you need to do when you know, like, you have kind of like a safe win condition in the back. You don't want to just switch in Rotom, let it take unnecessary damage. So Hugs was content letting it just, faint and getting some free switch-ins.
Yeah,
but that could have been scary. Yeah, Hydro Pump miss. I mean, even if the Hydro Pump missed, like, Snarl and Foul Play was really not doing very much, and I think it would take, like, probably another, like, 2 times of that in order for Plup to have maybe pulled it off. So I think, Gastrodon is very easily the first thing you can consider bringing, because that obviously covers the Hydro Pump options. So maybe you bring both Gastrodon and the Rhyperior. Rotom Mo didn't end up coming out from that last game, and that at least, like, puts on a lot of pressure against Rotom Wash directly right from the start. So that's also another thing to consider. You also now know that there is the light screen on the opposing side, so Plup has been pretty adamant on Dynamaxing his Cramorant in all the games so far, so perhaps he wants to consider Dynamaxing something else, maybe like the Rhyperior or even the Gastrodon. The key thing is, once again, water is just not very good against a lot of the Pokemon on Hugs' end.
Yeah, I wonder if Gastrodon would be the right switch here. But yeah, I mean, just Hugs played that so well in terms of saving things until the very end, and then of course getting the Hydro Pump. I don't think it mattered whether or not the Hydro Pump actually connected that turn or the next. The Snarls at the end, it's just Arcanine raising their lips at each other. It's just crazy how that's the kind of how it has to go sometimes. But you're right about this definitely being one of those scenarios where you kind of have to have those long, drawn-out fights. It just put Hugs in such a spectacular position to be able to take the game, and now Plup needs to make a couple of adjustments, I feel, because having Sableye and Arcanine in the back wasn't enough damage to be able to chew through what Hugs was presenting at the very end.
Yeah, so we'll see what adjustments they make exactly. I feel like overall, like, I mean, Hugs is running like a super solid, consistent team, and there's so much like, defense on it. You've got the Intimidate from the Arcanine, the Will-O-Wisp, the Snarl, and normally a Pokemon like Cramorant, for example, that's kind of a sweeper, wants to just be able to pick up big, like, one-hit KOs before the opponent can even move, but because Hugs has all of this bulk on his team, it's really easy to kind of weather the storm there and be able to survive attacks. So I honestly think Plup played that first game pretty much as well as he could have given the tools that he had, but Hugs has a lot of great defensive tools, and Arcanine and Rotom is just like such a consistent, fantastic lead.
Yeah, you got the same leads again from both players, Arcanine and Rotom on Hugs' side, and then Plup showing us the Orange Bird and the Sableye once again. I feel like this is a particularly difficult spot again for Plup to be in, just because you had to see them make an adjustment early on here. But this time, maybe Hugs gets a little bit aggressive here, and Sableye gets a chance to show us what it's made of before it has to switch out.
Yeah, the key thing here is you don't maybe necessarily Dynamax the Cramorant this time, and it looks like that's actually the adjustment Plup is making, and I'm actually a really big fan of that adjustment. And
Yeah.
so we're going to see the Trick Shenanigans come out. Now, even though you don't get rid of the Dynamax, you actually get rid of Rotom's item, which, of course, is that Citrus Berry. So that means that, you know, Rotom will be kind of... It's not going to be nearly as bulky because it doesn't have that extra recovery. So that's actually kind of a neat play where you don't stop the Dynamax, but, like, Surf actually does a lot of good damage there. I mean, it's 25% there right against Rotom, and you force a switch out. So, you know, a free turn of offense there for Plup.
Yeah, I really like that. And Cramorant gets a chance to show off that ability, Gulp Missile, once again. How funny does this bird look with just a fish hanging out of its mouth? I love it.
It actually looks so funny. But I really like that adjustment by Plup. I love the decision to not Dynamax the Cramorant finally and just get consistent damage off with Surf. I mean, Surf is doing a lot, and don't forget, when you Dynamax, you can only target one Pokemon because the moves only are single target, and you don't get the Choice Specs boost either. So Plup, by not Dynamaxing, not only conserves his Dynamax, but also gets more damage off across the board. And yeah, now with Priority Will-O-Wisp from the Sableye, if that connects, this Ferrothorn's really not going to do very much damage. So great adjustments by Plup here. I think this is a great way to play with the Cramorant.
Yeah, I really love the adjustment as well. And this time, you actually can't see Hugs protect the Arcanine. Most of the times, we won't actually see players go for that double protect there. So going to switch into Sylveon and actually end up Dynamaxing again? Is it really the Ferrothorn? Yes, it is. It is going to be that Ferrothorn. Dynamaxing one more time here for Hugs. It ended up being kind of an MVP the last game, so maybe, just maybe, it's going to be able to get the job done this time too.
Yeah, let's see. If Will-O-Wisp connects, though, it's going to really not do much damage across the board and actually be able to hit.
Yeah, is going to get the hit there, but Bird uses the Surf here. His Sableye is still able to hang on, but it does end up using the Citrus Berry that it stole from that Rotom. So, yeah, the great play there by Plup, but max overgrowth now coming out from that Ferrothorn into that Bird slot. Wow, actually does a significant chunk of damage.
Yeah, but this time around, not able to get the one-hit KO, and if you're able to even, like, you know, take 2 turns, for example. Wow, that's one way to do that. That's the first time I've ever seen that in the game.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's shooting so at lowering the defense of the opposing Ferrothorn as well. I mean, so the thing here is, yeah, being able to connect with that burn is a big deal. This means, obviously, Ferrothorn has 2 turns of Dynamax left. And this turn, Plup is threatened offensively by a lot, right? Like, Hyper Voice will be able to just pick up a double KO here. Sableye doesn't really want to do anything in this position. Could maybe actually set up a Rain Dance and just get like one final Surf off before you go to your final 2 Pokemon. But then you've set up the Rain, and then what's your answer against the Ferrothorn? Like, Hugs has been Dynamaxing this Ferrothorn more for like the defense than the offense because it's able to just stick around and it's so difficult to take care of it. And Sableye is a relatively frail Pokemon, so even though it's able to kind of get these shenanigans off, it doesn't really provide too much. Will-O-Wisp is going to connect here with the Sylveon, though.
Will-O-Wisp now burning both Pokemon on Hugs' side of the field, so Sylveon is going to take a bit of damage there every turn, and Surf again is going to knock out the Sableye, but here's a Pikachu now showing off the other half of Gulp Missile. This is going to be Cramorant's gorging form, and really what's important about this is that if it takes a hit right now like it is going to, it actually ends up paralyzing the target as well, but unfortunately, because the burn already happened, it's not going to get the paralysis.
Yeah, that's the first time seeing this animation in a competitive battle. It is so fun to see. The burn there essentially negates the healing from leftovers every turn, but yeah, like you mentioned, no paralysis. So we'll see which 2 Pokemon Plup decided to bring in the back. Ferrothorn still, of course, importantly enough, has 1 turn of Dynamax, and it is Gastrodon and Arcanine. These are 2 really great Pokemon to have, honestly. They are quite defensive, but yeah, we are seeing like 2 teams with like just like, you know, kind of hyper defensive cores go up against each other now. These are, you know, some of the bulkiest Pokemon that you can have in the game, and Grassy terrain is up, so you can still do some okay damage with a max overgrow. But with the Rendo Berry on Gastrodon, I think we'll be able to survive pretty comfortably. And this might be a game where Gastrodon potentially can sweep through. And the most important thing here is that Plup hasn't Dynamaxed yet either, which is a really big deal. He's conserved his Dynamax for this point in the game, and Gastrodon, after a couple of Max Quakes, won't be taking any damage from Sylveon or Rotom, and Rotom doesn't have its Berry either, so this is a game where Gastrodon theoretically could really just stall it out after a couple of boosts.
Well, we are going to see the Dynamax finally. This is what you meant when that turn 0 and turn 1 were so important for not Dynamaxing the Cramorant, because you get a chance to save the Dynamax energy for now. Gastrodon is going to become a healthy Pokemon now to be able to deal with the rest of the Dynamax energy coming out from that Ferrothorn, but it ends up going for a Max Guard first, and Flamethrower now doing a chunk of damage here to the Ferrothorn, and Hyper Voice will be coming up from the Sylveon. Doesn't get a chance to connect because of the Max Guard, and just does a bit of chip there to Plup's Arcanine.
That
Max
was
Overgrowth
a great
as well.
play by Plup.
Wow.
The defensive Dynamax there, but in doing that, you do two things. I mean, you take no damage and conserve your Rendo Berry, and the Dynamax now ends up on Ferrothorn's end, so it's not often players will, use Dynamax for a defensive protect on its first turn, but I like that move a lot, and now a Flamethrower should be able to knock out the Ferrothorn, and you can start Max Quaking up, and we've seen this Gastrodon set. It's got a stockpile as well, so I mean, Hugs might not have enough offense to break through it, and Gastrodon if there's one Pokemon in the format that can maybe 1v4 or 1v3, Gastrodon really is it. So you'll also be able to get some special defense boosts for the Arcanine, and the Gastrodon Arcanine combo synergizes nicely because Rotom obviously can't Hydro Pump the Arcanine. And so you can continue to boost your special defense and snarl up. There's no recovery on the Arcanine, but still has its Berry. It's still sitting really healthy. So even though Plup is down 2-4, he's actually not in a terrible position at all.
No, sometimes that's just how the games go, getting the 1v4 options. I think the only other Pokemon that I'd maybe say has the ability to do a 1v4 is Corviknight. I've definitely seen that before. But Gastrodon in this particular situation is definitely going to be able to do quite a bit here. Hugs, though, has to reposition themselves. Doesn't really want to lose the Ferrothorn quite yet here. And beautiful switching from Hugs, actually, means that the Rotom's going to take the Flamethrower instead. And Mystical Fire, what an interesting choice to have there.
Oh, the double up into that slot.
Yes.
Yeah, so really nice switch there by Hugs, and people might be confused on why went for the Mystical Fire there, but you're guaranteed the special attack drop there. So basically, Hugs is saying, I don't care if your Gastrodon's really bulky, you're just not going to do any damage against me, and I've got recovery as well. So that was a great way to get rid of another turn of Dynamax, and using something that's immune and not getting the added effect from a Dynamax effect, it definitely hurts. But Gastrodon here is definitely free to Max Pick Sylveon. Arcanine's probably gonna just want to snarl in this position, and it's gonna be kind of a long drawn out game. We're not actually playing with the official VGC 2020 timer rule, so yeah, this game might go on for quite a while now.
Yeah, this game definitely has a chance to go on for a long time. Arcanine gonna go ahead and use the Snarl. We've seen this setup before here from Plup, but it really is anybody's game at this point because this is gonna be a long drawn out battle. Even though we got the special attack drops, which is more important for the Sylveon than really any other Pokemon on the field, you have the light screen as well to really help, and Mystical Fire once again connecting with the Gastrodon and getting another drop. So this is gonna be a tough one. Max Quake probably not going to be enough to get the knockout here onto Sylveon either. That's laughable amounts of damage right there.
I think that's the lowest amount of damage I've ever seen from a Dynamax Gastrodon ever. Yeah, I mean, I think Hugs is going for the best plays. There's no point in attacking because that the Gastrodon has recovered, so it's just going to heal the damage back up. So might as well go for those special attack drops, but oh man, without a timer, we could be in for a long run. I hope everyone has some popcorn ready because we've seen Rotom, we've seen Sylveon, we know there's the Arcanine, we know there's the Ferrothorn. We're seeing some of the bulkiest Pokemon go up against each other right now. And there's so many Snarls, so many Will-O-Wisps. Yeah, and Light Screen is up as well. I mean, the thing is that there really is no way to beat this Gastrodon, so we could theoretically stockpile up and eventually stall out everything that burns, but oh man, this is normally we have timer in effect so that games like this will end faster, but yeah, without the timer in effect right now, we'll be in for another 10-15 minutes.
If you need to go take a bathroom break, I'd do it now. You're probably not going to miss a terrible amount of anything at the moment because Thunderbolt also just barely did anything. Calm Mind, though, coming out from the Sylveon is going to be able to reverse some of those special attack drops coming out from the Snarls there and also increase its special defense. But a Stockpile as well from the Gastrodon is going to do the same. So this is going to be, a really tough one here. Defense and special defense boosts. My goodness.
Yeah, that's why I, was saying earlier, like, I'd like to see Hugs bring the Dragapult, because they can kind of just, like, pick up big knockouts, but, he's perhaps content to just play defensively here. I mean, Sylveon's on a timer. I think Arcanine's best job is honestly to just spread Will-O-Wisps around. Like, if you get a Will-O-Wisp onto the Rotom this turn, then it's essentially on a timer, and then you can alternate between Protect and Snarl, so... I mean, this is a stall war, but both players can win this. Like, even though Hugs is up 4-2 without the timer, like, it's still anyone's game, honestly, especially with the chance of a crit.
Yeah, well, Flamethrower again, not gonna be a crit here. Thunderbolt, though, this time maybe gets a chance to crit, but, is not going to. He gets the paralysis, though. Wow, that is actually going to be pretty big. That means that Arcanine's not going to be able to fire back attacks, potentially Hyper Voice as well. Now an Earth Power into the Sylveon slot. That did like 4 damage, I want to say. And there's some more leftover action here with the burn as well. I'm settling in for this one. I'm just gonna get comfy in my chair real quick.
Yeah, I mean the Arcanine is slowly on a timer. Like slowly but surely it will get knocked out eventually. And I think in Plup's position, it's best to alternate between Protect, Snarls, and Will-O-Wisp. I'd really like to see a Will-O-Wisp onto that Rotom because then you're just doing residual damage every turn. But can understand why he's prioritizing trying to knock out the Sylveon. But yeah, the damage output against Sylveon right now is kind of laughable. You maybe want to stall up Light Screen that's also on at this point. And so yeah, Thunderbolt's slowly chipping away at the Arcanine as well. That is a big paralysis though.
Yeah, that is going to be a big paralysis, but like you'll notice, there'll be actually a second Citrus Berry pop there for Plup after the trick that ended up stealing the one from the Rotom.
Oh, and a full paralysis.
Yeah, the full paralysis is going to be doing that Arcanine a little dirty here. Scald, though, maybe just barely putting Sylveon within that range of getting knocked out naturally by the burn, but the leftovers there, again, to really help with that. Sylveon's timer is definitely ticking away here, and it will not be able to survive past this next turn.
Yeah, the key thing here is that Arcanine is slowly getting whittled away. It doesn't have its berry anymore, so yeah, Thunderbolt and Hyper Voice will continuously be able to hamper it down. And because, like, you'd imagine if a Will-O-Wisp came out turns ago against this Rotom, its HP would be considerably lower, and I think, like, the way that Plup was going to win this game was you first need to knock out the Rotom, and then Arcanine and Gastrodon can theoretically take care of everything else in the back because, the Arcanine on the opposing side's not going to do very much damage. Scald finally gets the knockout there onto Sylveon, but might be a little bit too late at this point.
Ooh, Light Screen's gone though too. I think that's important information to note that Rotom's going to be able to get that set back up again, but it is going to be an Arcanine that is very, very healthy from Hug's side of the field, and it gets the Intimidate off, which is going to help with the attack drops here too. So yeah, not super important because both of these Pokemon have really been going with the special attacks here, but the paralysis is still a big deal here, and Plup might also be kind of running out of gas in terms of dealing with the rest of the Pokemon that Hugs has.
Yeah, with Light Screen and those special attack drops, as Arcanine eats up another paralysis, so Hugs getting a real introduction to competitive Pokemon, but I think Hugs has played this really, really smartly, honestly, and I think, like, Plup also actually played he did pretty much what I think he needed to, other than maybe burning the Rotom earlier. But these mind games are a lot, right? I'm sure when these players were practicing, they weren't playing like 20-30 minute matches that kind of rolled out like this. So yeah, just slowly whittling away. But the key thing here is that Arcanine no longer has any recovery, and then once Arcanine's gone, like, you really can't do any damage to the Rotom with Gastrodon. Arcanine needs analysis.
Yeah, this Arcanine needs to be able to move at least a little bit here, but Flare Blitz now, even though it is not going to be very effective, because Arcanine is still relatively healthy and is stat-free, will be able to chip away at some of this damage. Gastrodon, though, with the Earth Power into the Arcanine slot is, again, not going to do very much. There's just too many attack drops that happen for that Gastrodon.
Yeah, and Gastrodon has chosen not to heal itself either, so, I mean, I think the way that Plup was always going to win this is you basically need to knock out Ferrothorn. Once you can knock out Ferrothorn, Gastrodon can effectively beat everything else. But Hugs played really smartly by actually making that switch out with Gastrodon way earlier on in the game. And because the Arcanine never ended up Will-O-Wisping the Rotom, Rotom has been sticking around, and there's no way to deal good damage against it. Like, Will-O-Wisp is actually the best means of offense. Like, Plup needs a burn onto it, but he's running out of time because pretty much one more attack or a double up here should knock out the Arcanine.
Yeah, we're actually on, I thought we were on move time for a second, and then I realized I think that's actually just because we have move timers for every single turn here. But Flare Blitz, once again, going to be going into the Arcanine slot, though, and even though it's going to take some recoil damage there, that is going to get the knockout, and it is just Gastrodon against the world here for Plup versus Hugs. And this, Thunderbolt not going to be able to do too much, but the Earth Power now as a clapback here from Plup. Again, chipping away at the Arcanine, but Arcanine's going to be able to help out its partner, Rotom, to be able to clean up this game, I think.
Yeah, it is a 3-on-1, and I mean,
I think.
It's not easy to connect with a couple of Power Whips and slowly whittle away at the Gastrodon. This was a game, though, that Plup honestly could have won if he Will-O-Wisp the Rotom earlier. But once again, this is such a tough position to be in. And now Rotom finally Will-O-Wisp the Gastrodon, so you'll have that residual damage connecting every turn as well. So I don't think, like, the Thunderbolt paralysis was bound to happen on Arcanine when you're going for Thunderbolt every turn, and it doesn't make that much of a difference in this matchup, I think, fundamentally. But I think this Gastrodon is going to be really difficult to break through. So although Hugs actually came up with a really clever way of going for those Mystical Fires to decrease the special attack, like that was really good awareness by him. So nicely done, but. I like how both players play this. I mean, I think Plup played this well early on, and then Hugs played this endgame smartly. And I think, like, Plup basically needed to target down that Rotom faster.
Yeah, and Rotom just continuously getting a chance to go for light screens, which is going to help keep this Arcanine super, super safe here against all of these Earth Powers that are going to continuously come out. But I think we know how the rest of these turns are going to go. It's going to be more of the same here. And, of course, Gastrodon taking the burn damage. Recovery, I think, going to be coming out as well just to continue to stall us out. We're actually getting down to the wire.
So Rotom actually finally making out the switch into Ferrothorn. Now, I mean, Ferrothorn is burned. If you stockpiled, like, a bunch of times and click recover, I mean, the key thing here is, like, Gastrodon, I believe, still has its Rindo Berry, so let's see if it, goes for a recovery here. I think Gastrodon really could maybe pull this off, depending on how much a Power Whip's going to do against this Gastrodon. I mean, it is burnt, and the Rindo, like, the first one's not going to do anything, but maybe two is going to be enough. But... yeah, this is why I was saying Gastrodon could 1v4 this entire team. There is no Protect, though, yeah, so you can't alternate between that. And there is a timer. Okay, we do have a timer in game. I wasn't sure about that. We're playing with the old timer, I believe, so I think that might just be a 20-minute overall game timer. But with that, Hug should be able to win off timer by itself.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. But Ferrothorn is now going to be on the receiving end of all of these Earth Powers, and the Power Whip coming in from Ferrothorn is going to be able to pop that Rindo Berry, but still does a decent chunk of damage, even though that Rindo Berry ended up weakening that attack. So Gastrodon might have to use a couple more turns of recovery here in order to really clutch this one out from Plup, but we're still on that timer. So that is at least a little bit of a saving grace.
Yeah, I mean, with timer now, I think Hugs will probably win even with the timer itself. Plup's win con was maybe to stockpile last turn and just, like, continuously click recover. But it looks like he's just going for a critical hit. He doesn't really want to drag this on any longer. And Power Whip here will finally finish up the deal.
Whoa, what a way to end the series here. Hugs actually taking a fairly clean 2-0 here in the series versus Plup, but it's not entirely over because that was the winner's final. So it means that Hugs is going to be moving out of Pool B.
It is, and I mean, I think he was definitely the favorite out of that pool, but he made some great adjustments. I think, like, I really like how Plup played this up until, I think, the stall war, and I like, can't fault him for that position as well. That's, like, not conventionally how really the game is often played, right? Especially when you're, like, knowing how to win with, like, really defensive Pokemon. Like, the way you play with that is very different from just, like, hammering down with hyper offense. But Yeah, that was I mean, well played on Hugs to just like keep calm. And once again, I really want to point out the mystical fires onto the Gastron.
Mhm.
Like, that was a really good call because I think a lot of players in that position would just be tempted to go for straight offense. But Hugs recognizing, okay, if I get special attack drops on the Sylveon, it's going to be permanent. It's not going to be able to do very much damage. But yeah, that was a super fun set. I did not expect it to drag on for as long as it was given the start, but that is what happens when you're running Pokemon like Arcanine, both players running up defensive Arcanine, Gastrodon, which sticks on the field for forever. I think what Plup could have done differently in the late game there is go for an early Will-O-Wisp onto the Rotom, and then you basically want to stack stockpiles so that you stall out the Ferrothorn. If you get up to
Yeah.
3 stockpiles, then you can just recover continuously. If it misses a Power Whip at any point, you're also in a pretty good position. But because he didn't build up those stockpiles earlier on, it was going to be difficult for him to win.
Yeah, I think that was actually just a really nice change of pace in the game too, because a lot of the VGC 2020 that even I've experienced has been so offensive and so aggressive that it is nice to be able to see these players make these adjustments long term when you are playing such a long and drawn out series, because it does require a different skill set to really eke out those kind of it just eke out and clutch out those fights, you know?
Yeah, and I think people are talking about the timer, but I don't think either player actually was really thinking about it. Like Hugs would have won off the timer if he wanted to stall it out, but he was
Mhm.
just playing as safe as possible. He was like, okay, I'm just gonna wait until
Yeah.
Ferrothorn is able to come in a safe position. So, yeah, I mean, he just, I think, really great assessment of him to recognize what his win conditions were.
Mhm.
And yeah, he ended up not even needing the timer there in the end, but he most certainly would have won off timer against that Gastron.